Are you worried about this going into the election? Are they going to censor information going into a presidential election?
Yes, I am worried about censorship. I'm worried about a number of things going into the election. One, the censorship of robust debate.
I recognize that at scale, the challenge of moderation is daunting. As we get closer to November, the stakes will only grow.
Republicans and Democrats going after big tech companies about bias and policing disinformation online. Now, joining us now to explain is NetChoice Vice President and General Counsel Carl Szabo. Carl, thank you so much for joining me today to discuss this. And first, I want to point out to folks, you really take issue with Republicans and Democrats on this issue when we're talking about disinformation, the way that it's being tackled, and political advertising, don't you?
I mean, one of the things you need to recognize is a lot of this is what I like to call working the refs. You're seeing calls for more moderation on the left, and you're seeing calls for less moderation on the right. But at the end of the day, both are trying to dictate to private businesses, these online platforms, what they can and can't do for their users and their advertisers.
We're going to be hearing so much about something called Section 230. This is part of the legal protection buildup inside the Communications Decency Act. It's from the 1990s, so basically, in the most basic terms, it protects companies like Twitter and Facebook for liabilities that for things that their users put online. And correct me if I'm wrong on that. Right now, there is a push by Republicans to actually start limiting that a little bit. And I want to play a sound from Senator Josh Hawley of Missouri, who helped write the social media bill. Let's take a listen to that.
The truth is that these dominant platforms are monopolies or near monopolies, and they're selectively enforcing their own terms of service. So this just goes back to what 230 used to contain, a good faith requirement. This puts good faith back in the law.
So, Carl, if you're rolling back liabilities here and putting, as he said, good faith back into the law, what can really be accomplished here?
So you have to understand first what Section 230 does do. At the end of the day, it upholds the conservative values of personal responsibility. It says the speaker of the content should be held accountable for what they say, not the platform. What Senator Hawley is referring to is the most important component of Section 230, the ability of those platforms to be able to remove speech that is offensive, that is lewd, that is objectionable, stuff like terrorist speech or pornography, stuff like that needs to be able to come down on these platforms. At the end of the day, what I really worry about is the injection of the federal government into what we can say on social media platforms. And that's what really starts to scare me, because as I said at the top, this is really about working the refs. Senator Hawley pretty much knows that his bill isn't going to move through the Senate, and even if it did, it would probably be DOA in the House. So what is this more about? It's about trying to gain leverage over platforms and make sure that the people in D.C. are controlling what can and can't be said online. You see similar efforts from the left with Speaker Pelosi speaking out against Section 230 for the opposite reasons.
But you've heard conservatives for quite some time say that they feel that they're being mistreated. It's a very unbalanced approach when it comes to social medias and conservative messages. And many will point back to May 27th when the president's tweet was taken down by Twitter. What do you say to that?
Yeah, look, I'm a conservative. I worry about this issue too. But two important things to note. One, the statistics just don't uphold the conservative bias narrative. Quick stats for you. In May on Facebook, President Trump captured 91% of presidential candidate impressions. Vice President Biden, only 9%. For top national news networks, Fox News was actually #1 with interactions on Facebook at 13%, Breitbart #2. CNN and ABC News combined are still less than the number of interactions on Fox News. So the data doesn't hold it up. But the more important thing to remember is that at the end of the day, this is not about bias, it's about business. Because these platforms know that their advertisers are the ones that they're ultimately accountable for. You're seeing efforts on the left to try and work this relationship by trying to go after the advertisers by saying, look, you don't want controversial content up next to your ads.
And Carl, I am up against a hard break. I'm going to have to thank you there. Carl Szabo.